Okay. Good evening, Carlene.
Hi, how are you, Beth?
I'm good. We had a good day today. We dropped lit for Abby Lowry and the Democratic candidate for Congress, whose name I absolutely can't pronounce, but he's running against some very nasty people. So I was glad to be part of that with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, just had to close the door. There's conversation going on in my house.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great. It was really nice to be outside. It's supposed to be cold and blustery and maybe raining, and it turned out to be a little chilly and not really blustery and definitely not rainy. So all
That's
of it
good.
really positive.
All right, we have a good program tonight. We're going to talk about not being complacent, why you're not supposed to be complacent, and then how you need to get involved, our task list, the to-do list between now and the election.
So I don't know about you, Beth, but my to-do list feels like, off the screen long.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said to my husband tonight, to Rick, when we got back, it was like, okay, can we just, like, how many more days?
We've got a slide on that, I think.
We do have a slide on that. All right, so you want to get us started?
I will, and what I'm going to do is I am not going to share your to-do list. I am going to, there we go.
All right.
All right, today is the 20th. We have 2 more weeks before the election. And you see our OAP logo there. And I think this is probably maybe the most important thing OAP, Oregon Area Progressives, contributes is this phrase, our motto: no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. That is
Absolutely.
a truism.
Absolutely. So
all right, we can't be complacent during
we should put this together as like a mantra.
That's right. I forget that sometimes, and I know you do. So, yeah. All right, we all get overwhelmed with everything we want to do. So I guess our goal tonight, folks, is to unnerve you a little bit, get you a little anxious. I'll say that right up front. And
at least as anxious as half of what we are.
Well, half, okay. And then though, we want to show you how you can use some of that energy into what needs to be done between now and the election. So we're in the home stretches.
Yes.
Now, in case you wanted to know, the next presidential election, in case you were counting, was 13 days, 7 hours, 14 minutes, and 7 seconds. And if you want to actually see that clock go down, you can watch it this way. Okay,
yep.
So you can,
now.
Excuse me?
It's a little closer than when I took that screenshot.
That's right. So there's a website. In case you have nothing to do, you're up at 3 a.m. I don't like the picture on the front, so I'm going to move us. Hang on, I have to move my bar out of here. Okay. All right, here we are, we're back. Okay. So we did that. All right, I'm going to talk through, folks, the reasons that I don't think we can be complacent. And I want to say off the bat that I'm glad we're in the position we're in, those of us who are supporting the blue wave, Biden, Harris, and everybody down ballot. I'm glad we're in the position, but we cannot be complacent. We were in a similar position in 2016, and while things are different, very different.
Skeptical, much more skeptical now than we were then.
Right. And there are a lot of unknowns. So I'm going to walk you through the unknowns. The first one is we've never voted in a pandemic. We simply don't know how the pandemic is going to affect turnout, how it's going to affect voter lines, how it's going to affect everything.
Well, one of the other things that we don't know how it's going to affect, and I was having a conversation today when we were out doing this lit drop, is people who send in their ballots as absentee, and if they haven't completed everything on them, we don't know if clerks are going to have the time to call them and say, can you come in and do this piece of your ballot the way they did in April or the way they did at the primary? Because the numbers of absentee ballots because of the pandemic is so much greater this time. We don't know. So it's super, super important that you do those 5 things, that you sign your ballot, that you have a witness who signs the ballot, that your witness includes their address, that you seal it once and don't reopen it, and then you put it in a drop box or you take it into your clerk, because we're past the 16th and we don't want to leave anything to chance.
That's right. And starting today, you could, in Wisconsin, you could go into your clerk's office, have the clerk take a look at the envelope and make sure it's okay. So there's no reason to have a lot of our ballots thrown out, but again, we don't know. So we also don't know about the effects of voter suppression. We all know that the Republicans can't win unless they cheat, and they are doing their best, their level best. And we just don't know what the effect of that is going to be.
Yeah, so we need to behave like they're going to win every court case, that everything is going to be against us. So we have to take every precaution in making sure that we are doing our level best to make sure our ballots are in. And that includes really making sure that there aren't unwanted folks outside of polling places intimidating people, like being there to say, go away, you're not welcome.
Next week, I'm going to give a sneak preview. Next week, I believe Carlene and I need to talk about this, but I think we're going to talk specifically about what to do if you encounter voter intimidation, and to prepare before the election. And I think we're going to cover some of that. All right. So as I said, the effects of voter suppression are unknown. The latest data seem to imply that there are more newly registered Republicans among the new registrants. We don't know what that means. Again, these are unknowns. These are not reasons to panic. These are reasons not to be complacent and to take the to-do list we're going to suggest to you later and actually do some of those tasks.
So on that one, do you remember what Kathleen Beinhout told us when she was standing in your backyard when she went to the Buffalo County Courthouse, and she said to the clerks there, can I just take a look at the newly registered voters from 2016? And what she found out was exactly this, that there were a lot of newly registered folks, and they predominated. Now, Buffalo County, Western Wisconsin, already a very conservative part of the state, but there were a lot of people who hadn't ever voted there. And while there were a lot of new registrations, the thing that she found was that Republican registrations were here and Democratic registrations were here. Right. So there's a lot of newly registered Democrats as well, but we just can't take for granted that Democrats have outnumbered Republicans.
That's right. Another issue or another factor is that the current president dominates the news cycle. He sucks the oxygen out of the air. It's very difficult to get the message across for Biden. Related to this, we don't know the effect of disinformation or shadow campaign. So on Facebook, the QAnon phenomenon, the disinformation campaigns from the Republicans themselves, we just don't know how these affect voters. And they are continuing, and they will be increasing as we get closer.
And one of the things that we do know is that it does not help when we amplify their message.
That's right. That's a very good point.
It's really important that, okay, the president is out there doing stupid stuff in the news cycle all the time. It does not help us if we amplify his message. Similarly, with the disinformation campaigns, ironically, I watched on PBS last night, Independent Lens, about Pepe the frog.
Oh yeah.
How it had been co-opted by the alt-right. And at the same time as Hillary Clinton was talking about the alt-right, there was somebody in the crowd shouting Pepe, and I'm naive. I had absolutely no idea. It was something completely unbeknownst to me. And so I think you make a really good point that a lot of us don't know what those effects are, but we do know what we have control over, and that's what we put out and what we need to be putting out in social media and other places is really positive messages around our candidates.
I agree so strongly with that. So some of the posters that Oregon area progressives are putting out now have to do with Biden's policy positions, which are popular with the majority of Americans and need more airtime. They're just not getting them right now. We also, another reason not to be complacent is the Trump campaign, because they don't believe in the virus and masks or whatever else, or at least that's what they say. We know they do believe in it, because they managed to dump lots of stock when they got inkling early on of how big the pandemic was going to be. In any event, in-person canvassing has been going on by the Trump people. You may have been visited by some of them, and it's not a trick-or-treater. It's real, and we're not doing that because we have some respect for public health. However, we just don't know if that's going to have a payoff or if it's going to turn voters off. We just don't know. Again, another factor that is a question mark.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another issue is it looks like Joe Biden and the Democrats have plenty of cash, but there are late donors. We know that Sheldon Adelman has dumped $75 million this week into the Trump campaign. We don't know how that's going to affect it. We just don't know. Also, of course, we have faux news, or some people call it Fox News, gives the president each night 3 hours of uninterrupted, almost commercial-free airtime with his sycophants, the traitors.
Yeah.
And we just don't know how that plays out. Well, the final point I want to make.
I just want to say something about that. I think that one of the things that is really clear is that while some folks say people who don't love our country are Democrats, and I think that we have to counter that. I can't stand to watch Fox News because my blood pressure goes up and I become super angry, and so I can't watch the pathetic crap that they put out and call news. But at the same time, that we have to understand, I think, that there are a lot of folks who have come to rely on this as a source of what they feel like is real, and not belittle them, but also approach them with our own personal stories and the stories of people we know that offset what they're hearing in that space. Because I think a lot of people are just so taken in and are in a vulnerable spot. This is a really hard time. And Fox News and Richard Ailes was a genius. He was, or I can't remember his first name.
Roger Ailes.
Roger, yeah. When it came to this, he tried to get way back. I mean, a little too much history, but he tried. Nixon would have been saved if Fox News had been in existence at that time. So these are people who are being manipulated by faux news, as you said, faux news. Go ahead, sorry.
No, it's a huge point. I'm not as sympathetic anymore as I once was, and I think we're facing some tremendous divisions in this country that are going to be hard to bridge. All right, the last point I want to make are the polls. And I just want to say, before I turn to the next slide, all polls are a snapshot in time. That's it. And some of the polling sites, for example, 538.com is one of the better ones because it averages the polls, and therefore minimizes the errors in all the polls by averaging them. But I want to show you the Wisconsin, the latest. I got this tonight from 538.com. And what I want to show you is, this is the forecast from all the polls in Wisconsin. Whoops. And what you can see is Biden up in all of these. But what I really want you to focus on is the margin of error.
That's not the margin of error. That's how much they're up. The rating over here is the part, the A plus, B plus. It's how they grade the polls based on who they poll and how their questions are written. So the A plus polls are the really well written, unbiased polls, and the C minus polls. Right? Trafalgar. Well, I guess C minus is Trafalgar both times. Those are based on how the polls are administered and how the questions are written. So those are not margins of error over there on the right. That is
okay. I made a mistake.
Lead.
My slide is wrong, because what I wanted to show was the margin of error, which tend to be for plus or minus 4 points or more. So whenever you see a poll that has a margin of error that's large, it means that there could be a swing of plus or minus whatever those points are in the results. And that's why we can't be complacent.
The thing to be really conscious of is a couple of things here. The date when the poll is taken, right? So this A plus poll here, which is a fabulous poll, and Biden is up by plus 10, that was October 11th, right? Things have happened since October 11th that are significant. And so, it'll be interesting to see in the next Siena New York Upshot poll if the margin is still 10 points. Because in the next poll, which is a B-rated poll, but still a good poll, Biden is up by plus 5. So I think the thing that's significant here is these ratings of how they don't just average the polls, they weight them based on how the questions are asked, who they question, and their bias. So Trafalgar is not a good poll. In other words, C minus poll. There's some D-rated polls in 538. Which I wouldn't even have a poll if I was a D-rated poll.
I can't imagine you being a D-rated poll.
Oh, I have a hard time not asking biased questions. I've read a couple polls and they've been like, the people who know how to write them are like, oh no, you can't ask it that way.
Right. Well, the point is there are margins of error, and that means a swing. So, and they're just snapshots in time. All right. So those are the reasons we should be complacent. Go ahead, Carlene.
So 5 things you can do. Now, mind you, Beth wrote this list, but I get to read it. Get your vote in. Make sure that you've done your job. This is probably the thing that happens to me most often, is that I just am just frantic that my vote is not going to get in. So the first day before the first day that early voting started, I would always go. Get 5 friends to vote. Make calls for Biden and Harris. Drop lit or make calls for Wisconsin legislative candidates, and donate. Biden and Harris. Drop lit or make calls for Wisconsin.
Okay.
Right. Go ahead. So you can advance that.
Okay, the next one is get 5 friends to vote.
Oh no, I already did all of these.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I was looking at for questions. All right, an expansion on getting your vote in. If you live in the Oregon area, you can vote in the clerk's office of your municipality starting today through October 30th. You can also drop your absentee ballot, if you already have it, into the drop box at Triangle Park, or if you live in the town, in front of Town Hall, the town of Oregon. And of course, you can always vote on election day if that's your choice.
So then get 5 friends to vote. Now, if you're like me, you're hard pressed to figure out which of your friends wouldn't vote or which of your family wouldn't vote, but spend some time. Think about that. And then it never hurts to just send it to the people that you know. Like I send it to my kids. Did you get your ballot in? They all did. They're like, Mom, come on. Of course I did. But it never hurts. You're the mom. But think about those people in your network who you could be a big difference in whether they vote or not.
And I want to add, it doesn't have to be in Wisconsin. You've got family in other states. The same message can go out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, let them know what their options are about, especially in Wisconsin. We know. I don't know in other states. Well, I do know in North Carolina because taking care of my mom's vote and things like that. But make sure that you know how you can help them vote. And then, like I said before, get your address book out. Or I didn't say get, but Beth added that. Make sure you're thinking about those people who might just need that extra nudge, especially if they're people who are feeling really anxious and down in the world that we're living in right now. Some of those people also think that their vote doesn't count. And hearing from you that it does and that it matters to you that they vote, that's important. And then ask them to ask other people to vote as well.
Another thing you can do is make calls for Biden and Harris. So volunteers all around Wisconsin, and we are 2 of them, are making calls on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 5:30 to 8, and every weekend at 9, noon, 3, and 6 on Saturday and Sunday, and at 9 and after so around the Packer game. Now, I know a lot of people don't like to make calls. I don't like to make calls. It's easier for me in this election because I think so much is at stake. But one thing that the Democrats have a new tool this year that I hadn't used last time was this automatic dialer. And you don't have to use your phone. The automatic dialer dials ahead, and when people pick up, you actually talk. So if you knit or if you play computer games, you can kind of do that while you're waiting for the next person to pick up. The shifts are only about an hour and a half. It's not hard. And I really encourage people to do that because the best data we have say that voter to voter contact, personal contact, is the most important way to reach people. And of course, we're not knocking on doors. So this is easy. You can do it from your home. You can do it on what's called the Through Talk or the dialer, and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. So then you can do what Beth and I did today and what other OAP folks have been doing. You can go and drop lit for legislative candidates, or you can make calls for them. So there are several districts in Wisconsin, assembly districts that are close to us and Senate districts that are mostly further from us. So Melissa Winker is running in the 38th. That's most of Jefferson County, and it extends into Waukesha County. Chris Marion is to the west of us in the 51st Assembly District. It's over here. And she is a fabulous candidate. Then Abby Lowry is just up a little to the northeast of us. And so those are all places that it's easy to drive and to drop lit. You don't actually knock on doors or anything. We were over there doing that today. And then the Senate districts, this is really important. All 4 of these Senate districts. Well, no, 3 of the 4, I should say. 3 of the 4 are open seats. The 14th, the 30th, and 32nd. So the 32nd was Jen Schilling's seat. Brad Pfaff is running there. The 14th was Luther Olson's seat. So, and Joni Anderson is running there. SD 30 was Dave Hansen's seat. Ironically, Jonathan Hansen is his nephew. He's running there. And then Patty Schagner won in a special election up in SD 10, which is way up across from Minneapolis. She ran a campaign based on kindness, and she won. And she won, narrowly but decisively in a special election, and she's running there as well. And so I'm just going to step over here, like in my professional life, actually, in my professional life, you can see back in the corner there, I'm working on ending partisan gerrymandering. And these open seats are very important. And the other seats are really important in making sure that we have a legislature that is going to support nonpartisan redistricting in the coming year, so that in 2022, we are not voting with rigged maps. We need to have different maps. And so all of these races are super important, and we hope that you'll help out with them.
Finally, if you can, donate. If you can't, that's fine too. Maybe you can give some of your time in some of the ways that we've talked about. As we say, there's more information at our website, www.oregonareaprogressives.org, or you can call us. And Carlene, do you want to close the presentation with our slogan?
No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. We hope that you will do something. Join us. This is important. It's important for us. It's important for our children. It's important for our grandchildren. It's important for our planet. It's important for our world.
Do we have any questions?
No, I just checked it and we don't.
All right. I
good.
think I don't have anything to add.
Me either. I'll see you on Zoom and doing let drops.
Right.
And I hope I'll see some of the rest of you as well.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Have a good night.
You too.